We're going to look at a camcorder this time. It's a Sony. It's a CCD TR81. This was the first small TR series Hi8 camcorder that Sony made, and I still think it's one of the best ones that they ever sold. This is 30 years old. I have the same model. It was my first handy cam that I bought. Other than that, I had like a V5000, but this was the first small one. Let's see what's wrong with this one. I got this little camera in for service. It was shipped up by a viewer. He sent me the power supply and everything, even though he didn't need to, as I certainly have power supplies for these, but I'm going to use his power supply. He even sent a battery up with it, and he sent a tape that he says has got some random test footage on, so we'll take a look at that. He says that it has a problem with the autofocus, and wanted me to look at the autofocus and check it over. First things first, I'm going to remove the strap, because that has to come off first. They get in the way, so I'm just going to remove the strap and put that back in the box that it was shipped in, so that it doesn't get lost. And then we'll check the camera out and see what's going on with it and what needs to be done to make it functional. Now, these are pretty old cameras. I've got one. It was one of the little first Hi8 handycams. It's the only Hi8 handycam I ever purchased. And this one here is, I think, a little bit newer than mine. This one's from 1992. So this camera's 30 years old. Coming up on 30 years old. Be 30 years old in December. And let's just see how far off this one is from mine. Because mine, I think, was from January 92. It's a little bit older. So here's mine. Mine's January 92. Mine's number 341. Because they all started with A3. That was the factory. Mine is number 341 off the serial number. And this one here is 104537. It's funny because the sticker here is a different part number. If we look at the little sticker, this is funny. This one's a 3-686-975-21, and this is a 3-686-971-51 for the certifications. What is the difference between the two stickers? I mean, they both have the same information on them. This one here, unless he's removed the rubber coating, which is possible. Mine, the rubber all went bad on this one. But my camera has, as I say, this one had so many hours on it. If this camera could talk, that's all I'll say about this. If this camera could talk, what a tale it could tell. When I was in my younger years, I was out of my circle of friends, I was the documentarian that was the guy running around with a video camera while all of the silly friends were getting totally inebriated by alcohol. And I'm sworn to secrecy. Nobody has ever seen the tapes other than the people that were involved, and that's the way it's going to be. But I tell you, I certainly could make a funny video. I could certainly make something hilarious, because I have some really funny stuff that's on Hi8 that I recorded myself and my silly friends, just making absolute idiots of ourselves. Nothing illegal, just fun stuff. But some of the things that we would do. We did a lot of skits from comedy bits, right? From movies and stuff. We would redo skits and change them around, and well, let's just leave it at that. It's some funny stuff. I've shown it to some friends that were involved. I put compilation tapes and stuff together for big birthdays like 40 and 50 and so forth, right? So we've seen some of the stuff, and it'd be pretty embarrassing, I think, now for many of us. Anyway, that's for another day, because you guys are never going to see that. My friends would kill me. We'd all get a good laugh out of it, and then they would kill me. Anyway, let's see what's going on with this camera. First things first, this camera has a lot more wrong with it than just not focusing. For one, there's no color. For two, look at all the noise. This has got capacitors that are going bad. That's what's wrong with this one, and that's what's going to be the problem. It's going to have surface mounted capacitors that are leaking. The focus is not working either. As you can see, the focus servo is not working. Or is it manual? It might be in manual focus. Put it in auto and see what it works. I'll see now the color starting to kick in as it's starting to warm up. Looks like it's in manual focus mode. How do I turn it in auto? The autofocus button. Autofocus is not working because I'm rolling the lens and it is focusing manual. But this camera's got more problems than just the focus. This camera has color problems, it's got power supply problems, you can see it. You can see all over the picture. And I don't even think I need to try to play the tape that he supplied with it, but we'll just take a look and see whether there's anything on the tape. Well, it looks like he's got pictures of his cat, but as you can see, it's not recording color, and it doesn't appear to even have any sound on it. I've got the sound turned up, and there's nothing. So this has got a lot of problems with the camera, and it may not be repairable, and there's a good chance it won't be. But we'll give it a shot. I'll take it apart, see how bad it is. The thing is, it's 30 years old, right? And the problem is anything I do to it, especially when it's capacitors that are leaking, it doesn't even want to close down properly. What the heck? Like the door here doesn't even want to close. It's like it's been sprung or dropped or something. But, oh, that's kind of bent up there. But even the lid doesn't want to close properly. I don't know whether it's been dropped or what's happened to it, but there's a good possibility that this camera is not going to be repairable. I'm going to say that right now, just because there's a screw missing there off the door. If you're wondering what that noise is, that's my ceiling fan. It's wobbling slightly, I guess, and the mount is making a bit of a chirping, which is a hell of a lot louder on camera. And there's a good chance that mine doesn't work anymore either. I've fixed mine a few times. But the fact is that they just sit, right? They don't get used. It sits on the shelf and it just deteriorates. And this is what happens with all of these cameras, is that, you know, they don't age very well when they're sitting around. One of the things that frustrates me is I hear people telling me that they picked up a camera on eBay and it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. Most of these cameras were dead by the time they were 10 years old, never mind one that's 30 years old. Now the funny thing is that people that use them and continue to use them, like someone's got an old camera, and if they turned the thing on and used it for a couple of hours every month, there's a good chance it probably still works. Because what really happened on these, especially with all these electrolytic caps on them, is when they sat around for many years without being used, the electrolytic liquid in the cap, the pH went slightly base, and it melted through the rubber plug in the end of the cap that keeps all the liquid inside. Once that happened, they spilled their guts. This one's been sticky. Someone's removed it. I can see they've missed it there. The sticky rubber has happened on this one too, just like on mine. What? as they say, nothing lasts forever. Especially when it comes to these type of devices. You'll see why in a minute. Why a lot of these devices are not worth fixing. I got all the screws out, it should just pop apart. Okay, so there's going to be capacitors here that are bad. These ones are going to be bad. But the sound, look at them all on this board. About 15 caps on this board that are going to be bad. And there's going to be a couple on the main board for sure that are going to be bad. And possibly, I don't think there's any on the camera board, but on the main board, there'll be a couple on the main board. This one didn't have as many caps as some, and probably some inside the DC to DC converter will also be bad. So autofocus problems is usually, this is the autofocus, I think that's the autofocus motor, yeah, that's the autofocus motor here. You can see it moving back and forth as it's trying to focus. And there should be a feedback loop on here that tells the mechanism where the lens is as far as the focus goes. You can see what happens is you can see the motor spinning back and forth and it's trying to focus and it's going in and out of focus. And there'll be a sensor on the lens to tell the autofocus mechanism where the lens is as far as what zoom position it's in, as you can see when I zoom the lens. And usually what happens is that it's like a variable resistor that gets dirty. Now some of these ones use an optical sensor. I think this one might have used an optical sensor if I'm not mistaken. It's right here. Yeah, this one uses an optical sensor. You can see what happens here. When the lens moves back, you'll see the little plastic protrusion there, and that blocks the light in this optical sensor to let it know when it's at the extreme. It's called an interfocus lens. The camera started producing color now because it's been running for a while. But you can still see the color flashes. That's due to ripple, due to bad caps. There are caps on the main board that give us trouble though, so we can tackle those ones first. See whether we can make any improvement. Remove this bracket, and then the camera board should flip down. There's another screw at the back here. And then the camera board will flip down, or flip up I should say, and reveal that there There's another board below. Now there's typically only one capacitor that goes bad on this one, and that's that one right there. It goes bad. On the camera board itself, there's a few that do give us trouble. And then there are some more inside the DC to DC converter module, which is the board at the back here. Camera board unplugs. There's just 3 connectors that plug in, so we can unplug those. Now the camera board can be worked on separately. As can the main board. You can check the ESR of this cap. It's a 220 microfarad at 4 volts. That's 5.8 ohms. For a 220, it should be more like 0.6. So that one's got to be replaced. We'll swap this one out on this main board. So we'll remove this old cap. We're going to cut it out. I generally do it this way. I find it's a little safer than twisting them off like somebody does. I won't mention any names, but there's another fellow that likes to just take them and give them a twist and take them off. Well, that quite often works, but sometimes it'll damage the traces. Well, we don't want to damage the traces on the board, so I generally try to take them out that way. I just find that it's just a little bit safer than some of the other ways that I've seen people remove them. Find my little tweezers here somewhere. Got a replacement cap ready to go. Already shortened the leads on it. This is a 10 volt at 220. Should fit in here no problem. I'd be able to make it lie flat. I don't have any surface mounted ones, but these ones tend to work just fine. Okay, that cap's replaced. Let's take a look at some of the caps on the camera board itself, as these ones here are can be problematic too. There's only a couple of them on this board that go bad as a rule. There we go. So on this board there's 4 that potentially could be problematic. Check them with the ESR meter and see how they look. Okay, that one's completely open. .5 it's also going bad. 1.6 and that one's also completely open. So 3 of the 4 for sure should be replaced on this board. Yeah, that's open. So let's just see what values we have to change out on this board. I should probably change all 4 of them while I'm at it. Okay, we'll start out with this one. That's 47 at 16. Right over here in the middle of the board. Gotta clip it out of here first. So there's the 47 in place. We'll bend this over so that it provides us the right clearance. And the next one's the 33, which is this little one over here. I'll bend that one over after I change out this 220. And then the last one on the board here. That should get the camera section working properly. As I say, there's still a lot of other things that are going to need to be done on this, like a sound problem, the soundboard, will need to be dealt with as well. But we'll work on one thing at a time. I'll pop the camera section back on and we'll plug it in and see whether how it works, whether we get any better focus and or get rid of that noise in the color. The camera pops on and the 3 screws hold it together. The main board and give it a test fly and see what improvements, if any, we've made. I should have made some improvements because those caps were all pretty bad. Not really much of an improvement. Focus is a little better now, but we're still getting a lot of noise on the picture because the power supply is crap out on it. It's the switching power supply. I still don't have color. I zoom it in on something. It's hunting. Oh, here comes the color. Now that the power supply is starting to warm up. Yeah, power supplies. That's this one on the back here. What do we have inside this tin can? We have more caps. So these ones are all through hole and they're all measuring good. 0.4, 0.9. 0.5, 0.9. I think these are all fine. The power supply on this seems to be okay. There may be more under this board, under this shield here. I forgot about that. Is there any more under here? This is where the color IC is. I don't know if there's any surface mounted caps in here or not. It's so long since I've opened one of these up. Just pop out this little board here. Undo the shielding. There should be a big IC underneath here, like a module IC, and that might be where the problem lies. Is on. Oh, there's another one back here. This might be part of the problem, but it could be this IC here that's gone bad. These composite modules were known for trouble, but this cap here I'm sure is leaking. It's 100 microfarad, 6 volts. I'm sure I've got one. We'll swap that one out and see if that makes any difference. we'll just measure this one before cutting it out and see that it is in fact completely open. So this one's going to be problematic. This is probably why the camera's not working properly. So I've got another one here. I should be able to fit it in there. Let's get this one out first. This one's going to be a little more challenge to get out because there's less room, but I'm sure we'll be able to cut it out the same. Looks like this one may have leaked onto the board too, so there may be board damage under here as well, which I hope not. Yeah, you can see the remnants from where this one's leaked. If you look closely, you can see the crap that's leaked out of this one. I just hope that it hasn't damaged this board, because that's usually what happens is the electrolytic leaks out, is corrosive, and it attacks the board. And this being a multi-layer board, you're not fixing it if it gets soaked up with electrolytic that's corrosive. That's why I hate working on these things. I can't guarantee it, right? If I get it working, it might work for the guy for a couple weeks, and then have another problem, and he's going to be mad and say, well, I can't guarantee this. It's 30 years old, right? If you want to try and fix it, we'll try to fix the thing, but I can't guarantee it is going to last any length of time. It could break tomorrow. It could work for another 5 years. Who knows, right? You never know, just depending on if there's been excessive damage. And I don't really want to re-wet the board to try to clean it off, because if it's dry, it's not doing anything. If it's wet, it could cause electrolysis and all kinds of other nasty things when the power is applied. So I really don't want to wet the board anymore, because I don't want to damage this IC, because you're not getting this IC. If it breaks, that's it. It's game over. So I'm going to put this small cap in here. Gotta figure out a way to make this thing fit, because it's larger than the other one. I mean, I probably don't have to put the shield on, but it's a good idea to. Maybe lean it over at an angle like this. Something like that. And then we'll try this again and see if I get the color back. So this could fix the focus problem too, because these cameras work off of high frequency. When the high frequency comes up in the video, that tells the autofocus circuit that it's in focus. It works off contrast, so it works off of, but it works off the high frequency detail. But with all the noise in the video due to bad capacitors, the focus circuit is not functioning, because all it's seeing is all this high frequency noise. So I'm hoping that this is going to resolve the problem with the autofocus, as well as get the color back to the camera. Once we get that dealt with, then we can deal with everything else that could be wrong with this unit. And I'm sure that there's going to be more things I'm going to find than just these caps. Like, I'm pretty sure that all the ones on the audio board are going to have to also be swapped. But at least it's a little easy. Well, I shouldn't say it's easier to work on, because they're quite densely packed together. But Not all of them may be bad, although they probably will be, because this is right from the bad era of crap capacitors. Their friends in Japan turning out garbage. Very innovative garbage though. When it all boils down to it, this particular camera, this was the smallest high quality camera that was made at the time. Nothing else even came close to this one. It was one of my favorite cameras of the era. Like, there were other small cameras that Sony had. TR5 was another one, right? But it was just a regular 8mm. This was the first of the Hi8 in the TR series that was small like this. And that's what made this camera so special, is that it could record a half decent quality picture in a small camcorder and compete with the big boys. Yes, I have a color picture. As you can see, it's focusing now. Let's see if it'll focus. Zoom it. Focus. There you see. Put my hand in front. We'll focus on my hand. There, I think it's focusing now. Let's just point the camera around and see what I can see with it. Point it across the street. And as you can see, it is focusing. Bring it back in here. So that part's fixed. Now we just got to figure out why the sound isn't working. But we're part of the way there. We've fixed the camera section, and I'm sure it's going to record and play in color just fine now that we've changed out those caps on the camera board and the main board itself. So now it's just dealing with the sound. Make sure it's going to record and play sound. So here's an old recording that I'm playing from an existing tape of mine, and you can hear the sound is actually working. And here's another recording that I got, a pre-recorded tape. I hear sound. So maybe the sound is okay. I'm going to just put the microphone back on. We'll do a test recording. This camera might be fixed. I might be done. I'm always hopeful that that's all that it's going to take, and that we've saved another one from the scrap heap. Put this plug on. That goes up that way. Yeah, so positives and negatives, correct? Yes, it is possible to put it upside down, but it won't make connection. That's why I always kind of double check to make sure that everything is going where it's supposed to. Plug that into there. Plug this one into the front here. And these two plug into the microphone and the remote control receiver on the front. That way I can do a test, make sure it records and plays. I don't have to put this all together for testing, just enough that I can hook it up, put a tape in it, and make a quick recording, and then I can throw the rest of it back together. Squeak, 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 squeak. Ha ha ha, to all you guys with headphones. Teaches you for wearing headphones. Little feedback never hurt anybody. So this is his test tape that he sent me, so I'll Do a little test recording on here. Okay, I'm recording. We'll do a little sound check here. Focus check. There we go. Camera's focusing. You guys can't see what I'm doing because I'm looking at the screen. But I'm zooming in on my sign. Okay, I think that's probably enough. Let's play it back. Rewind the tape. Gee, the recording doesn't look very good, does it? Looks a lot better than his recording, but... That's not recording that well at all, and there's no sound. So we still have problems. I'm thinking at this point I should probably get a hold of the guy that owns it and just let him know where we are and see how far he wants to go on this. Now that I kind of got an idea what I'm up against. That soundboard has got problems for sure. It's going to be bad caps on that for sure. I've done the caps on the main board, but it's still not recording that well. Of course, that could be the sound problem. The soundboard could be causing problems with the recording. I could unplug the soundboard and see if the picture improves, and that would certainly tell me if the fault was caused by the soundboard, because how the sound is recorded on 8, it might not even record at all though if I unplug the soundboard. It all depends on what they're doing. But 8mm and Hi8, how they work is the audio is a carrier. It's actually a series of carriers that get recorded onto the tape using the same heads. They're an FM carrier that's recorded on the tape. And if the frequency is off, for example, due to a problem with the soundboard, it could certainly cause problems in the video just due to the fact that the mutual interference from the audio circuits. Undo this video connector here if I can. Take this off just so that I don't damage it when I'm pulling the soundboard out. I guess I could have just undone that, but I want to pull the soundboard out right now, and because this is going to require work anyway to fix this. See whether I can make a recording without the soundboard on and see whether it improves the picture. That'll tell me right there whether it's just the soundboard where the fault is, if it'll record at all. Because they say this generates a carrier, generates multiple carriers that get added to the video signal. So it's very possible that those signals can cause interference to the chroma and luminance because of where they're recorded. They're recorded in the spectrum between the carrier for the video and the color. So I'm just going to make another quick recording here and wave in front of the camera just so that I know which recording is which. And I'll see whether the picture is recorded any better. So here's the recording. This is before I unplugged the soundboard. Okay, hope you guys are watching so you can see what I'm talking about here. So there's the interference. The soundboard's causing interference. Okay, that was what was on the tape before in black and white. And there's what I just did after unplugging the soundboard. So the soundboard that you see right there in front of my hand, that is what's causing the bad picture on record. We got to fix the soundboard. But you know what? I'm halfway there. I'm going to end this video now because you guys have learned something. A faulty soundboard, and it's going to be capacitors on here. That's all it's going to be. But a faulty soundboard on these Hi8 cameras will mess up the record on the picture. And you see, you guys just learned something that you didn't know. Anyway, I'm going to end this one now because I got to get a hold of this guy and kind of let him know where he stands as to what it's going to cost him to fix this thing now that we know where we got to go. We'll do a part 2 if we get to that point. Thanks for watching.